All right, tonight's subtle emotion for courage is loving. I thought this one was interesting because typically when I think of love or loving energy, it's not courageous. But then dug a little deeper, contemplated it. It makes sense. I think there's different flavors of love. So the memory that came to me first was when I did my tantra training. It was pretty intense. It's actually the most intense thing I've ever done. And this is Neo Tantra, actually, because I have been to India and initiated in classical Tantra, which was a lot different. But Neo Tantra, there's a lot of sexuality and feeling, and really opening more and more to peak states. So much so that I made this joke that I was going to Trigger Mountain every day because I was just getting triggered left and right. All my projections and defenses and a lot of stuff came up. And it was divided into four modules. Like every 3.5 months for a week, I'd go to this house in Ojai and we would practice from, I'm trying to remember now, I think it was 7 a.m. until 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. at night. It was it was intense. And at this house in Ojai, behind it was some mountains, not like Mount Kilimanjaro, but some mountains. And I have a love affair with climbing mountains, with hiking, getting to the top, feeling that accomplishment, and looking at the view. So the first day I got there, I immediately saw that there were mountains behind this place, went and explored a little bit, and had decided I'm going to climb to the top. But in that moment, I wasn't aware of how much energy and time I was going to spend in practice in the house. And during practice, I was getting triggered a lot. A lot of my stuff was coming up to the point where I was just like, man, I can't stand pretty much everybody in this room at not all the time, but at certain times. And I remember one guy I really had a hard time with, just annoyed the shit out of me. There was guys and uh, women in there, and I only knew a couple people that I had met previously. Otherwise, uh, I was just meeting a lot of these people for the first time. So this whole process took a lot of courage. And so this one guy, I was just annoyed with him. Like, in retrospect, he wasn't even doing anything. It was just my own stuff coming up. And but a lot of the other people, were annoying me too. I was getting angry, and I didn't get to climb this mountain. And it was the last day. The night before, our teacher told us tomorrow's it, so we're gonna start a little bit later, like at 9 or 10 a.m. I forget. And she encouraged us not to set alarms, just basically intuitively, everyone come back at the right time, which is a big aspect of Neo Tantra, just being in that intuitive flow. So I decided I'm going to climb that mountain first thing in the morning. And that night I didn't really sleep well. I was super charged with energy. Stuff was coming up. Just not sleeping well. Got up. It was still dark outside. sun was starting to come up a little bit. And usually, uh, when I get that charge of like, I'm going to go do this, that's it. I don't plan, I don't care. I'm going. I'm going to do it. And this time was no different. So I left the house. All I was wearing was a pair of workout shorts and some busted old Birkenstocks, which halfway up, not even halfway, I think a third up, I realized like, man, this is not the best preparation, not the best clothing choice. But I went. It's like I'm going. And the year prior, this whole mountain range was on fire. So it was just charred, just ash and charred trees and not too much stuff alive. And I just looked at the top. I'm like, that's where I'm going. And I just started going straight up. And there was a lot of feelings coming up, a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings. I was just letting them come and go and just staying focused on what I wanted to do, which was get to the top. I wanted to see the view. And I was going, and third of the way up, about a third of the way up, I'm tripping over all kinds of debris from the fires the year prior. And I'm starting to get covered in ash. And I remember seeing this single strand. It wasn't even a bush or anything like that. It was just a single strand of these really vibrant blue grapes. And I stopped in that moment, looked at them, just really appreciated their beauty, and I kept going. And about 2/3 of the way up, sun was out. It was hot. Didn't bring water. Starting to worry a little bit. Also concerned about getting back in time. I have no clue what time it was. I didn't bring a phone. Didn't have a watch. And I had some second thoughts about giving up. Just like maybe I made a wrong choice. This is a little dangerous. And in that moment, I looked over, and to the left of me was this giant stag, about 120 yards away, maybe closer than that. And it was just standing there on the side of the mountain, and it looked at me, and I looked at it, and we had a moment together, and then it just churned, and it took 3 hops, like these really powerful hops. Like this thing was just all muscle. And then it disappeared over the ridge of the mountain, over on that side. And I took it as a sign to keep going. I'm like, okay. That maybe that's like some sort of spiritual sign. I don't know. But I'm going to take it as a sign to keep going. And I just kept going. And as I was going up higher and higher, it was getting harder to climb. And I remember at this one point, I got up there, then I saw this path. I was like, oh, there's paths that lead up here? And I realized, that sometimes I take the harder path. Like I could have easily found this path and probably not got so dirty and scraped up and had these second thoughts. But then I also realized that if I would have taken that path, that easier path, like all these realizations wouldn't have happened, all this confidence that was coming from this. And I kept going. And I remember I got to this one point where I thought it was the top. And once I climbed up there, I looked up and there is so much more to go that I hadn't seen. And I'm sweating, I'm thirsty, worried about the time, worried about getting back. And I was like, fuck it, I'm this far. I'm not giving up. And I kept going. And as I'm going, like, there was a recurring thought of just like this anger at everybody down there. Like, like if they were just come with me, they would see this beauty that I'm seeing. They're not here. And I just watched that, felt it, stayed in the direction that I wanted to go, which was the top of that mountain. And I got to another part, and I was climbing up that, and I was almost to the top of the mountain. And as I was climbing up this thing, lifting myself up the rocks, I realized like I was creating the anger. Like I didn't ask them to come with me. No one said no. No one rejected me. But that's the anger that I had been holding on to for such a long time. That that was one of my filters. And this was a really profound realization because it was just me in the mountain, no one else. And I stopped and I took a moment. I was like, oh, this is what I always do in life. I blame people, I get angry, but say that I'm alone, no one's there with me, and really, I never even bothered to ask. I just was angry that they didn't magically come with me. And once I had this realization, I was like, oh. And I looked up at the top of the mountain, and I looked back down. It was so far down, I could see all over the Ojai Valley. It was gorgeous. And I decided in that moment to choose people rather than hold on to this anger and to save going to the top with somebody down there. And it was actually, I don't know, maybe this is hard to believe, but it was really difficult for me to do that. Like, at top of that mountain was so important to me personally. And I just, I was like, all right, I'm going to at least look at the top of this mountain one more time, just really feel it. Because that was my goal. And normally I don't veer from goals. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. But this felt different. This felt more spiritual. I mean, that was the whole point of this retreat. And so I looked up at the top of this mountain as I was consciously choosing to go back down and be connected to people and ask somebody to come back up with me. And as I did that, this, I think it was a condor. Definitely wasn't an eagle. It was massive. It was like the size of a Cadillac. Circled the top where I was looking. It was so gentle and flowing, just gliding over the top of this mountain. And it actually affected me a lot, like I cried a little bit. I had a couple tears come out. It was so beautiful, you know, and it felt really symbolic. And I looked back down and I saw how far I had to go back down just to find somebody to come back up. And maybe they would say no. And then I looked back up and the condor was gone. Like it was never even there. To the point where I was questioning if I even saw it. It was just silent. And I let go of that top of that mountain and I made my descent. And as I was going down, and this is where I think courage is loving, because it took a lot of courage for me to choose to not do something alone, to do it in a connected way. As I was going back down, I decided the guy that annoyed me the most was the guy I was going to ask, because I could now easily see that a lot of this, if not all of it, I mean, all of it, is just my own stuff, my own beliefs and programming, feelings. And so I went back down, just head to toe in ash. My sandals were horrible. Worst thing to wear. I think I would have been better barefoot. And I almost lost them a couple times. I was sliding at other times. Almost fell down one time, like just falling over, rolled down the mountain. But I finally got back down there. Oh, I was the only one that was late. It's a little late, just covered. And everyone was like, whoa, what's going on? And so I showered real quick, went in there, went into practice. And a lot of it was just wrap up, we're talking. And I turned to the guy, and I remember feeling the fear, like this seems big, you know, like I'm about to let go of all these beliefs and defenses and open my, my vulnerability, my heart, and ask this guy, hey, this is what my mental process was. These were my thoughts, and you're the person that came to mind because you're the person I had the hardest time in this group with. Would you go back up there with me? And he said, yeah. And we walked back up later. It was a completely different experience. And we got to the top, except for what I thought was the top wasn't even the top. And if I had gone alone, it almost felt like I would have been just endlessly trying to get to this top of this mountain by myself as the mountain revealed more and more of itself. And that guy to this day is a very close friend of mine. Um, and I think that's how courage, it, could be loving. That lovingness is courageous at times. All right, that's tonight's video. I'll see you guys tomorrow.